What makes a strong female character great? It's not really the main point of Blue Eye Samurai, but the experience of watching this show immediately after watching Star Wars Ahsoka flip and flop into mediocrity kept the question popping up in my mind. Of course, that and the fact that Hollywood seems to be obsessed
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
with trying to create perfect modern versions of this character, even though great versions of this character have existed for years. And so Blue Eye Samurai's success at doing something that seems to be impossible to most Hollywood writers and productions nowadays got me thinking, what makes a strong female character great? This will be as spoiler free as possible, so come one, come all. I think with Blue Eye Samurai, the case is simple for what it does with its female characters. Each of those characters has to have three things: strength, obviously, depth, and femininity. And I'll break this down into parts in the course of this video. I'll mostly be focusing on Mizu, our main character, to make this video not as long as it could be if I went through every single female character and even male character and breaking down the structure of their writing and why it all works so well. But I think Mizu is extremely interesting because strong character, the first two bits of this equation, are relatively easy to understand. It's the case for her femininity that I find to be the most special. Also, I'm sorry if my eyes or nose gets a bit twitchy in this video. I'm currently having a bit of a cold. So for those who haven't seen Blue Eye Samurai or are considering watching this and maybe this video is part of their vetting process, who is Mizu? Who is this main character, the Blue Eye Samurai? She's a woman driven by a dream of revenge against those who made her an outcast in what is essentially 17th century Edo Japan. As the IMDb summary says, a young warrior cutting a bloody path towards her destiny. You see, there were 4 white men in Japan at around the time of her birth, and her dream is to kill all of them, just as their treachery led to the death of her own mother and all the suffering that she has made to go through ever since. But what makes Mizu a strong character? What gives Mizu strength? Well, first of all, she's a character that we know is strong, which is a very important distinction from the average modern female character who we are just told is strong. But how do we know she's strong? What makes a character strong? I think there's a couple of things that we can extract from all the great characters, all the strong characters that we've seen over the years. And I think Mizu's writing excels at most of these, if not all of them. But for simplicity, the thing I love the most about her character is her ability to take a punch. We know she is strong because we see her fall and we see her get up. It shows from one of the first scenes, a scene from her childhood where she's getting beat up by a couple of boys in the town. And even though she's clearly being beaten and clearly is going to be beaten, she still has the resilience and the strength to find a way to get a kick in every once in a while. Hold my pretentiousness for a second. This is very, very important. The fact that even at a young age, she has both the fire within to fight back and the ability to take punches even without training is not just badass, it's believably badass. And they write this over and over. She's not just gifted powers or special abilities because reasons. She's not just this character that has always been this chosen godly Mary Sue type character, but the only thing stopping them from destroying everything or having ultimate power is the fact that they haven't come to accept the power within them. I'm looking at you, Captain Marvel. Like, what kind of dumb writing is that? I'm not saying that it's never worked. Someone will probably pick out a chosen one character somewhere that just needed to find exactly what was special about them, and it worked. Probably because we're choosing one characters that are these powerhouses, they have other problems in life that actually make it such that even though they're essentially gods, they can't fix everything. That is one of the important parts of a choosing one character, understanding their limits. It doesn't matter whether it's Superman or Harry Potter or Anakin Skywalker, who are all basically chosen one characters. They will not be as relatable ever, to most people anyway, as the Batman. Because even Batman, a character which his rabid fan base believes that he could defeat anyone with basically prep time, he falls, and that is the most important part of his character.
Why do we fall? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
He is resilience personified, and so definitely you have to do the same, especially when you're working in the action genre, especially when you're trying to bend gender rules and roles. You need justifications from the incoming questions like, how is this barely 100-pound lanky woman able to both defend and deliver blows that are any problem to men who are 1.5 to twice her weight? Or what if I told you that she has a specific set of skills? You see, whoever thought to drop this Naruto reference is a genius. I don't care if it's impractical or untrue. I don't argue with Saitama when he tells me that he's that strong that he could basically beat Superman because he's done 100 push-ups for 12 years or whatever it is that he says that he did. Sometimes all you need in a story, especially one where the character needs to have this semblance of growth and resilience, is a plausible idea as to why they are even half as strong as they are. They don't just nothing off her ability to be an actual force to be reckoned with. She's been training by lifting weights around her wrists and ankles since she was basically a child. She's done this every single day. Whoever thought of this deserves a raise. And then you have the added idea that just like Rock Lee in Naruto, taking them off gives her added boosts of speed, because of course when you're lifting around weights all day and basically moving at normal speed, you're not only much faster than the average woman, but very likely also faster than the average man, or even a well-trained samurai man. And there's a life lesson here too. It's one of the most contentious things about watching female action heroes, especially ones that are not innately superpowered. Like, how are they throwing men meters, men that are more than they would be able to bench press, considering their weight and what would be their muscle structure, where most people would see somewhere to just slide past, maybe just write a femme fatale or something. The writers saw an opportunity. They literally turned her disadvantage into her advantage. Essentially, she's a strong character because she's not just powerful because they said so. We believe she is because we see the growth, the struggle, the agency. Regardless of her gender, she is as strong, as at least mentally resilient as a character like the Batman or Luke Skywalker or the Punisher. And I really feel like this one thing, I could leave the greatness of this character here, but there is still two very important things to analyze. Fortunately, they are simpler, and so this will be a lot shorter, especially when you start to talk about character. Now, it's not very easy to understand what makes a character unique or interesting, except throwing around words like depth and intrigue, the layers. Even though some of the most iconic characters are not very layered, they're quite frankly flat. Think about characters like Sherlock Holmes, but I guess, especially in modern times, they seem to be in the minority. Unless we are watching characters for sheer spectacle, we kind of like them to have different twists and turns in what turns their gears. And with Mizu, and in fact Princess Akemi and a bunch of other characters, both male and female, in Blue Eye Samurai, they are given these layers, I think, beautifully through a reflection of their culture and the time which they are in, which I think is something that people don't really think about when they're writing stories anymore. They just kind of think, for modern audiences, doesn't matter if it's set in 14th century England, just write a quirky character that every millennial to Gen Z can sort of laugh and chuckle at. It doesn't make any sense. You're watering down the actual effects of this character by introducing modern ideals or processes of thinking or talking when they are set in a world that would never have these kinds of things. But first, let's do a quick rundown on what I think makes Mizu interesting as a character, especially given the setting. So we have this clearly strong character, female character, who has been liberated by the fact that she has abandoned her femininity. She has embraced being a man, essentially, in both mind and body, in the way she presents. She's very much like a male samurai of the era, and very not like any other woman of that era. And you have that also set in what we would definitely consider to be an oppressive patriarchal society of 17th century Japan in the region of Edo. And so maybe she could start a revolution, maybe she could be a freedom fighter, maybe she at least becomes this Robin Hood of women who helps women in their trying times, in these trying times. But she doesn't. Intrigue number one, she doesn't, because she sees that even a small act of kindness is akin to pretending to be a superhero, is akin to playing hero, which will eventually blow her off course and make her quest for revenge harder and slower. She will, without batting an eyelid, walk away from a woman and child who are apparently going to starve because of the oppressive patriarchal standard in that society that says that without a man as a partner, she can't cross between states to sell food. Later on in the show, we see that she will murder a woman who's not really a threat and who is actually suffering at the hands of powerful and evil men if it gets her what she needs. And this particular part of the story shocked me. I really thought that she would maybe attack the head of this ring that has this woman captured. So really, intrigue number two, it's not even that she's left her femininity behind, she's left her humanity behind. She's embraced being and unreal, even as she's aware that this path of revenge would eventually lead to the total consumption of her soul. And so that raises new questions as to why, and the reasons behind why she has chosen to jump off this cliff without any parachute are set up to be interesting, and in some cases actually even relatable. She's such a good character because her pain and struggle and her determination to achieve these goals aren't just overlooked or stated once and then we're just meant to follow along. They are made to be understandable to us. They are used to show rationally how she has left her femininity and her humanity behind, which then creates the problem that I stated in the beginning of this video, which is the case for her being a strong female character. Emphasis on the female. It makes the statement for that case very hard. Okay, bear with me here. I find it hard to call Mizu a female character, a strong female character, because there is so little femininity in her character. For intents and purposes, she is a man for most of the story. She lives in the masculine, and she's already a really good one. But essentially, think about it like this: her parallels of characters that I like her are less Sarah Connor and Vi from Arcane, and more the Batman, the Punisher. Even in this story, you can see how she differentiates from the other characters that I would also consider to be strong female characters, great, very well written female characters like Princess Akemi, who is trying to find her place and trying to understand exactly how to get what she wants in this male-dominated world as a princess and as a woman. Or Madame Kaji, who has learned to use her femininity to manipulate the men around her and is also teaching other women how to do the exact same thing. The kind of empowerment. Mizu, on the other hand, because she has left her femininity behind, has nothing truly feminine about her character for most of the story until you get to the very special episode, the top rated episode on IMDb, in fact, The Ronin and the Bride. And that's because the story introduces relationships, and there's one thing that you really can't get out of when you start introducing relationships between characters, especially as they're being earnest with each other, and that is how they sort of create these gender roles for each other. In this episode, even with the title being this metaphor for how she is both the Ronin and the bride, and there's very much emphasis on the bride part of this story, we actually get to see Mizu as not just a woman who is being a very good male character, but as a woman who is also a very good female character. And I think it's interesting to see how, even though society seems to want to do it with gendered roles and gendered labelings of things, it seems to still create some of the best characters. It makes them truly transcendent. In fact, some of the best cases we've sort of taken for granted. Like, tell me, really, what is Batman without his father-son relationship with the Robins? Like, imagine that is not even a bit of his lore. What is Batman, what is Bruce Wayne without the father-son relationship with Alfred, his protector? Or without the Dark Knight femme fatale relationship between him and Catwoman? These are distinctly masculine relationships that are created with Bruce Wayne, Batman being at the center. And so while watching Blue Eye Samurai, I had to come to terms with the fact that actually strong female character needs female to be a strong point, otherwise they're not really a strong female character. They could be a great character but not really a strong female character. Like when you take Vi from Arcane, the sisterhood relationship with Jinx makes her a uniquely female character. Jinx's relationship with Silco is completely different if Jinx is a boy. Like, you can probably picture this. Or you take a character like Joel from The Last of Us. What makes this character transcendent isn't the fact that he is a badass male character who is a survivor with zombie apocalypse. No, there's quite a few characters like that. His relationship with are the moments where his father-daughter relationship with Ellie helps him regain his humanity. I don't know what to say. I'd love to hear your comments on this. I wonder if I'm looking too much into this, but I think that gendered aspects of characters do actually make them transcendent. There's something that cuts deep about seeing someone have experiences, both struggles and triumphs, that not only you maybe can't possibly relate to personally, only because you don't share a gender with them, which is interesting. You know, most of the male fans with characters like Sarah Connor will never be mothers, and yet her mother-son relationship with John Connor in Terminator series is exactly what makes her one of the best characters ever written. And that's exactly what happens in the Ronin and the Bride episode, where we see that this path of revenge wasn't just unwavering and filled with demon-like possession from the start, and not just because of the things that happened to her as a child, which would be a weaker story, because even though the revenge was heavy on her mind, she did actually grow up in quite a loving relationship with her sword father. I'm not saying that kind of relationship would wipe away all the trauma that she had been forced to experience, but it definitely would have made her softer. And so seeing that there is an added trauma that happened to her as an adult and that happens so brutally makes this character even more iconic. In this episode, she finds out that her mother didn't die, she actually escaped. And we find that, oh, I think this is spoiler territory, by the way. We see how she accepts that she can try to be happy, if not at first for her mother and then eventually for herself in an arranged marriage of all things. We get to see her go through a feminine experience in this world, one that Akemi is also going to go through in this story. And for some reason, it legitimizes his character even more, and it shows us that early on she had, of course, reasonably given up on her warpath of revenge and had traded it for the chance for love and for a traditionally happy life. And in certain cases, she even cares about her femininity. She starts to doll herself up. She cares about the quality of her cooking for her new husband and for her mother. And while much like every other thing, she just wants to become a master at it because she's a woman, that would be a truly sexist situation. She still manages to clearly enjoy and create value for the relationship. She's easily more at home working on the farm with her new husband. She really tries, and at first it works. We get to see that the character we've been watching for most of this show wasn't one that was just so psychologically damaged as a child that she just decides to go on this warpath. But something worse must have happened along the road, something that we are definitely about to see. A betrayal so bad that it actually hurts watching it and completely justifies her abandonment of her femininity and eventually her humanity, as her attachment to people and any ideas of a traditionally happy life are ripped away from her by the very people that she tried to love. And at that point, that completely formed her description. At that point, I could no longer hold back the praise that Mizu, along with Akemi and Madam Kaji in the story called Blue Eye Samurai in 2023, are not just great, strong characters, but actually iconic female characters as well. My name is Oseremen, this is Cards and Reels, and I'll see you very soon. Peace.